What movie death scene is seared into your memory? Curb Stomp from American History X Edit. If you come across this comment and haven't seen the film, then I request you to see it. It's definitely one of the best movie on racism and shows really well that what blind hatred can do to yourself. The sound of the teeth on the curb. No question. The scene in Casino where Joe Pesci watches his brother get beaten to death with aluminum baseball bats. The pinging sound haunts me to this day, and that was a true story, right down to the dirt in the respiratory tract from being buried alive. Saving Private Ryan is one of my all-time favorite movies, but I can't watch the scene where Mellish gets stabbed. Mine is where Medic Wade gets shot and dies. John Coffey from The Green Mile. Don't put me in the dark, is afraid of the dark. That and the Cajun guy whose head lights up in the chair. Bridge to Terabithia. Thanks for killing me inside. When I was in high school, a friendly, charismatic Clammett and his little brother were both killed in a car accident on their way to school. The whole town was in mourning, and it was my first time dealing with the death of someone my own age, someone who I'd had clees with, the friendly clown who everyone liked. I was not dealing with it well, and my mom wanted to help, so she decided that we'd rent a cute movie, something to take my mind off of it. I'd never read The Bridge to Terabithia, neither had she. We had no clue what it was about other than knowing it involved fun fantasy stuff. The ending of that movie sucker punched me so hard. We were in shock, and I remember crying so hard at the ending, it felt like I couldn't breathe. Looking back, the poor choice is darkly comedic in a how could this week possibly get any worse kind of way, but at the time it was horrifying. In Titanic, the man plummeting from the sinking ship into the icy waters, only to have his fall interrupted by still metal propellers. That did put a hell of a spin on him for the rest of the descent into the water. Littlefoot's mom dying. Watching that as a kid was the first time that I realized that my parents could die, so that scene has especially stuck with me throughout the years. Ghost Ship. A cable sweeps through a dance floor so fast and sharp it slices people in half. This will always be in my memory. Wasn't the captain dancing with the little girl, and she watches as his head falls apart. The shoe in Roger Rabbit. How about the steamroller scene? That movie was packed to the brim with traumatic whimsy. The baby gorilla in the animated Tarzan. What the hell, Disney? That whole movie had a lot of death. Clayton's death at the end was really dark. In Silence of the Lambs, when Hannibal gets a hold of the guard in his cage cell and starts biting his face. 9-year-old me was not ready for that, and I was less ready to hear my mom start laughing hysterically at the scene. I guess she just found it absurd. 9-year-old me was not ready for that. Was 9-year-old you ready for Buffalo Bill to talk about getting ducked in the mirror? Not technically a death, but when Wally's memory banks got fried at the end, I felt that in my soul. Thankfully Pixar would never leave us on a note like that, but damn, that little robot moved me so much. I think it's really fascinating how much emotion and life you can put into a thing by just using eye movements. Will Smith smothering the dog as it turns in I'm Legend. In the Price version, they just had him find the germs under a microscope, and next WEC he's burying a dog-sized cloth bundle with a steak in it. When they crush Piggy in Lord of the Flies, I was probably too young to watch. Also, the scientist who gets killed in the elevator in Damien, the Omen second. I remember when I read The Lord of the Flies, and I felt so bad for poor Simon. When the shark kills Quint in Jaws. This is mine. Probably because I was 11 and watching it in a packed theater. The whole experience is still a vivid memory. That movie blew people away. Hereditary, the car crash. The way he just goes home and goes straight to bed. Chilling. Boromir in Fellowship of the Ring. It gets dusty in the room just remembering it. I would have followed you. My brother, my captain. My king. Feels. The scene in Bone Tomahawk where they rip the guy in half. This duck-in scene, I hate it, that it haunts me and interrupts my thoughts every once in a while. I'd be thinking about work, my kids, planning stuff, wishbone scene, and my duck-in day is ruined. Gotta be the scene in Inglourious Bastards where Bridget von Hammersmark is strangled to death. That was intense. I feel like I remember the bear juice scene a little more clearly than this one, but yeah, this is still super intense. Professor Xavier in Logan. Sir Patrick Stewart is such an actor. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Damn, that was hard to watch. That poor guy who gets his heart ripped out by Thuges and sent into lava in Temple of Doom always got me as a kid. Still pretty memorable. Someone must have left that movie on when I was really young, because I still vividly remember having nightmares about it when I was in kindergarten. A Baron Martell in Game of Thrones made me physically ill. First time watching that, my girlfriend and I had to pause it and regroup. Probably the most shocking moment I've ever seen on a TV show, and it was a good twist. Cedric Diggory's death in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, his dad crying and sobbing, and just made me never forget it. That's my son. That's my boy, breaks my heart even just remembering it. Watch Serenity. Shepherd book. His last bit was just watching the people he cared for be miserable while he was in incredible pain. 1917, when Lance Corporal Blake gets stabbed by the enemy he was trying to help after a plane crash. And then his best friend has to watch him bleed out and later tell Blake's brother about his death. Awful. That scene is incredible. You can see his face starting to get flush from the blood leaving his body. At the end it's stark white. The Green Mile. The whole thing, even down to the damn mouse. That movie was the first that ever made me cry and broke through my depression. No film will ever overwrite that one. I don't think I've ever seen the movie, but I absolutely love the book. Mr. Fredrickson's wife in Up. Probably this guy in Black Hawk Down. So he was in this convoy truck, and it got blown up by an RPG. Then one of the soldiers picked up his hand and saw the guy dying with half his body blown off. His last words? "Tell my girls it'll be okay." I saw that scene when I was a kid and it never left my head. For me it was Corporal Jamie Smith while he bled out because they couldn't clamp his leg artery. Edit, I finally fixed my grammar. Thomas from My Girl. Macaulay Culkin. YouTube. Oh my god, yes. He needs his glees. Not a movie but TV show. Glenn's death from The Walking Dead. His ducking eye popping out of its socket, trying to speak between blows, and then the mush of blood and brains, where his head is supposed to be. And all of this happening right in front of Maggie. Perhaps that was what bothered me the most. Not the gore, but the idea of watching a loved one be so brutally beaten to death. It seriously ducked me up for days. I knew he died like that in the comics, but after changing multiple deaths and seeing Abraham die I just really thought he was safe. That's why it hit so hard. Robocop buddy gets covered with toxic waste and then gets hit by a car and explodes like a water balloon. Edit. Syntax edit 2. Murphy's death was hard to watch for sure, poor dastard. But I could never get the vision of the windshield go out of my head. I'm also surprised to see Robocop so low, but this wasn't the death that's seared in, it's the guy in the beginning that is mercilessly gunned down by a 209. The panic on the man as he tried to run and everyone pushing him away, only to be turned to red Swiss cheese. I was 7 when I saw that. Still the one scene in Robocop I turn away for a second. Drew Barrymore hanging from a tree, with the camera zooming in, to start Scream. Her parents finding her body made it more heartbreaking too, especially hearing her mom scream out and collapse. It might not have showed their death, but the fact that they show Carl and Ella's story in Up, even if it's pretty quick, makes Ella's death much more impactful. That one hurt. I remember watching that at an outdoor campground amphitheater with a bunch of families. The lady behind me had never watched the movie before, and the sounds of her crying will never be forgotten. At first a bit funny, but then you could tell it her a little close to home. And then later in the movie she was done again. Satine's death in Moulin Rouge, right after she got back together with her love. They sing this awesome love song, and she dies as the curtain goes down. Ewan McGregor breaks my heart with that sobbing. Wait. So you're telling me that Ewan McGregor watches his love, who is named Satine, die as they are reunited? And this isn't Star Wars. Long live the king. No. Simba nudges Mufasa. Dad, come on, you gotta get up. Dad, we gotta go home. In a panic he yelp. Somebody, quieter anybody. Tears roll down the cub's face. Help. Returning to his father's lifeless body, he crawls under Mufasa's paw and buries his face, still weeping. In the dust still rising from the stampede, a dark figure appears. It is Scar. The man and woman in Titanic that lay in bed together as the water starts rising in the room. And the mother who reads to her children. TV show. Breaking Bad. Gus Fring. Tick 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 o / Ohio Boom walks out, straightens tie, dies. Gotta be Hank for me. That last line is so good. Walt, you're the smartest guy I've ever known. But you're too stupid to realize he made up his mind 10 minutes ago. Do what you got, bang. The one secretary lady from Jurassic World. All she wanted was to plan her wedding and not drag around to snotty brats all day. I saw it described once as death porn. I barely even remember what happened. I just remember being appalled by how long it dragged on. The end of The Mist. It is the most emotionally gut-wrenching scene I have ever seen. Stephen King said something like, damn, why didn't I think of that, haha. Artax. Don't you start. Blade Runner. I've seen things you people won't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to Die. I loved that scene. I have said it numerous times that Roy Batty was really just a tragic hero fighting to give himself and his friends a longer life in a world that was trying to destroy them. With just a few changes to scenes you could have made the movie about Roy and make Deckard the villain. Edit to at my first silver. Thank you to the sender. Dobby. Such a beautiful place to be with friends. Neil's Suicide and Dead Poets Society. Edit. Tie for my first ever silver. Second edit. Never expected this to blow up. Oh, thank you for the gold, kind stranger. Ugh, absolutely heartbreaking. The death of Mufasa. And if that doesn't get me the dad, wake up. Surely does. Oh yes, Musafa. Not to be confused with Mufasa from The Lion King. Yondu. He may have been your father boy, but he wasn't you daddy, still crying. Anyone else here have traumatic memories of movies you were too young to watch, but you saw anyway, because your dad just left them on TV in the middle of the day? My worst one, I think, is Poseidon Adventure. So the cast makes it all the way to the very end. There's like 5 minutes left in the movie. Thea climbing the ladder that will lead to safety, and ducking Linda just falls off the ladder and dies. Then her husband starts on a rant about my dear sweet Linda, and it's heartbreakingly good acting. But then the leader of the group decides to sacrifice himself so the others can escape safely. But even at age 6 I felt like that wasn't really necessary. He just felt bad because Linda's husband was giving him cheers because Linda couldn't hold onto a ducking ladder. IDK, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I'll never forget the movie that killed off 2 main characters in completely unnecessary ways in the final 5 minutes when they were a few feet away from safety. Also Mars Attacks, like the whole ducking movie. I saw that when I was 7 years old. The Martians had guns that turned people into skeletons. Duck that. Oh yeah. For me, it was accidentally happening onto the opening scene of The Dirty Dozen. It is the very graphic portrayal of the hanging of a very young and terrified GI during WWII. Poor kid keeps apologizing in the hopes that he'll be spared and lets out a huge gasp when they put a hood over his head as he realizes that his death is actually going to happen. It is very clinical and methodical, which adds to the horror. I was probably 8 at the time, and I refused to tell my parents what happened because I didn't want to lose my TV privileges. But they knew I had been traumatized in some way or another. The cop from Saw 5 who throws Jigsaw's apprentice into that coffin thing before getting crushed to death between 2 walls. The panic and brutality of the scene. You see his arm snap as he tries to hold the walls apart. I'd really like to watch through the series again, but the though of that scene stops me. I could watch the first one no problem, but it just gets too much, and I really feel uncomfortable watching that. I've only seen it once, and that was enough. That's the one that you can't watch. The third one had a guy's arm twisted a full 360. Wilson. When he keeps yelling him sorry as Wilson slowly drifts away. The sister's death in Grave of the Fireflies. I was sobbing an hour after the movie ended. Everyone needs to see that movie, but I can't ever watch it again. Oh god, when the elders jumped off that cliff in Midsommar. Going into the movie knowing nothing about it, the first death in that movie, no spoilers, was much worse. By the time the elders came around, it was just throwing more on the pile of ducked up cheese. The end of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Absolutely heartbreaking. I remember my mom bought that for me and my sister to watch. We had seen some previews on Disney Channel. My mom thought it would be a great Friday night movie for us to watch. Long story short, none of us were emotionally prepared for how that ended. The Six-Fingered Man and the Princess Bride. I want my father back, you son of a bitch. Bittersweet fact, Mandy Patinkin's father passed away from cancer a few years before they filmed the movie. Has said in interviews that he knew he wanted to play Inigo Montoya when he saw the script because he felt like if he could kill the man that killed his father, then it would be like killing the cancer that killed his father. He says that he didn't care about if the movie became popular or anything. He just wanted to be that character killing that man so he could get his dad back in his imagination. First Resident Evil guy gets diced by lasers. Makes me think about the same death in Cube beginning. Sam from I'm Legend. It's one of Will's best performances. Great movie. Hated that scene. Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good. When I saw this in theaters, in the minute or so after the snap, it was dead silent in the theater. Then when Peter said Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, there was just one guy behind me who shouted out at the top of his lungs, yo, duck this movie. That Uoku gets killed in Return of the GD. Anybody who sees this is probably thinking haha funny joke because it's fake. But there was this one Uoku was killed, and another one runs up to it and shakes it, trying to wake it up even though it's gone. No Country for Old Men when Anton Chigurh stops a car, calmly walks up to the driver, and uses a captive bolt pistol to kill the driver. It was swift and emotionless, it just showed the ease and proficiency with killing. I saw No Country, and I thought you were going to say the scene where he strangles the cop and his boot marks are covering the floor. It's pretty cool how they pulled that shot off. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the final scene, where he gestures 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and the music hits simultaneously. Edit, as pointed out by most of you, it wasn't a countdown. My bad. It was a thumbs up gesture, which I had mistakenly thought to be a countdown when I was younger. Link to that tragic and empowering moment. The one from Tita that sticks for me is a stepdad getting it through the milk carton. You don't see it until the camera pulls back and the sword gets pulled out. So brutal. Eva Green's character drowning in Casino Royale. Having James Bond watching her as she about to drown horribly has always stuck with me. I truly think this is the best Bond film. Such a well-made piece of film that makes you feel for the characters. An incredible soundtrack score, brilliant to listen to by itself, and opening title, which can make you feel a mix of emotions. The ending still gets to me, even after I saw it when it originally came out. The plot of this is so well done, as well. After watching this analysis, it really shows how great of a film it is. Great share. John Wick Dog. Mild spoilers follow. It was only on the rewatch that I noticed that the trail of blood along the floor from where the dog was critically hurt to where it dragged itself to be next to John hit me a bit harder than I expected. William Wallace. I whispered freedom to my husband during my C-section. He was a little too freaked out to laugh in the moment, since I literally had my intestines sitting out on my stomach at the time. Close bracket. For movies Brooks was here. For TV it's The Snake Pit in Vikings and the kitchen sink / fork in Sons of Anarchy. Man, I scrolled so far to find this answer. Shawshank is maybe my favorite movie. That scene gets me every time. When Sirius Black died, I was in denial about his death until the end of Deathly Hallows. Leo's death in The Departed. I was so unprepared. When Mark Wahlberg is waiting in the apartment wearing gloves and booties over his shoes. It's so satisfying. Most recently it was Gamora in Infinity War. I thought the CGI/motion capture on Thanos' face to capture how much it tore him up to kill her was superbly done. Bing Bong was also bloody heartbreaking. Got ducking Bing Bong. If that didn't choke you up, you're heartless. Haha. What's in the BOOOX? That was definitely a memorable moment in movie history. I knew about it ahead of time, so I wasn't scarred for life, but Brad Pitt and Kevin Spacey both played that scene amazingly well. A Beren mortal killed by the mountain in Game of Thrones. I literally read it in the book, didn't completely understand/believe, and searched for it on YouTube. I started the first book midway through season 1 and zoomed through the whole series that summer, so when season 2 started up, I knew everything that was going to happen from there on out until they hit season 5 and ran out of book. With the Red Wedding, I sat on my couch with Twitter open to smugly cackle to myself as people freaked out. With a Beren, I knew it was coming, but man, it still hurt to watch. Mostly because Pedro Pascal was so damn good. Two scenes come to mind, a Beren's death in GOT, and the one in Pan's Labyrinth where the bad guy bashes the poor kid's nose in with a bottle. Edit. In front of his father. Truly awful. Edit. There's something really disturbing about ending someone's life by literally shattering their face. Something apart from the obvious gore aspect of it. It's like destroying someone's whole identity in a way not even a loved one could recognize them. I don't know the words to describe that fear those fictional instances made me feel. The one in Pan's Labyrinth where the bad guy bashes the poor kid's nose in with a bottle, I had blocked that from my mind and I love that movie LMAO. Boromir's death, preceded by one of the greatest sword fight scenes ever made. For sure, so memorable and epic. I remember once feeling a lot of reverence for someone, and my mind immediately went to Boromir's last words to Aragorn. I would have followed you, my brother, my captain, my king. Still gives me goosebumps. All the deaths in Schindler's List. That's how someone who gets shot actually dies like. Thought they'd make it dramatic and cheesy like how most other movies do. But no. They got the dying part perfectly. The moment where a human being ends and a lifeless sack of meat, skin and bones begins. I was a really edgy 17-year-old, and I've seen lots of people die on video. Can't stand watching that shiz anymore. The moment where a human being ends and a lifeless sack of meat, skin and bones begins. Whoa man, you are absolutely right. Tony Stark in Endgame. Seeing a man who so many of us grew up with lie still, not a single snarky remark or pun. It devastated me. Same. I feel ridiculous telling people about it, but he is a character that's so close to my heart. It felt like I was losing a real person when he died. Sucked, but he had a good send-off. Prim's death in the Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 2. Ugh, for me it's still Rue. Could not get it out of my head from the book all the way until now. Order 66. We are just clones, sir. We're meant to be expendable, not to me. He chose Paulie from Last Crusade. Comes across real cheesy now that I'm an adult. When I was a child, not so much. The grandma from Requiem for a Dream. Really just that whole movie. 10y/show me just wanted titties. Jesus. You watched Requiem when you were 10? That movie ducked me up at 20. The Astant in Jurassic World didn't deserve that death. It feels like especially gratuitous for an innocent character in a PG-13 blockbuster. Hans Gruber from Die Hard 1. The look on his face as he falls will never dissipate. Not sure how accurate it is, but I've read that the reason Alan Rickman's expression as he falls is so good is because on some level it's real. They set up the stunt and told him they were going to drop him on a countdown, then dropped him early, so he'd be genuinely shocked. The death of Bambi's mom. I avoided watching Bambi for most of my life as I believed it to be about a baby deer dealing with being orphaned. When I actually saw it, it was fleeting, wasn't it? Did you even see it? It was just dad deer saying your mother can't be with you anymore. Then cut to 2 years later, when he turns up again, catches up with his friends and starts courting. I'd seen Dumbo many times, though, and that was much sadder all the way through. Septimus from Stardust. The witch dropped the voodoo doll in the water and he floated up. It was so creepy. Not a movie, but from the first season of Star Trek TNG where those parasites try and take over Starfleet. At the end of the episode is this insane body horror death. I can't believe it made it onto TV back in the day. I was like 8 when I saw it. For those interested. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.